Welcome. It's good. It's time to get started. So the 7 o'clock time is coming up. I'd like to excuse Jason Hadley. He's off on a trip with his family, so he's not going to be able to be here this evening. We'll start a meeting with the pledge of allegiance by Council Member Fawcett.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father, I'm grateful for the opportunity that we have to meet tonight as council and staff and members of the community. We pray that we'll be able to discuss the things of importance and be able to move them through quickly and efficiently in a way that is the best thing for those who we serve. And we ask for these blessings in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is the public comment. If we could keep it to 3 minutes, that would be appreciated. And then if you have comments regarding the public hearing, I prefer that you wait till the public hearing to give those comments. If it's comments be outside of the public hearing, then go ahead and feel free to share those comments. And state your name and email address if you'd like to have a response.
I think this is the only place for me. My name is Brendan Prawl, Brendan's Fawcett, really important. I'm here as a member of the America 250 Planning Committee for Harrisville, and we as the committee thought that we should kind of present our thoughts for that committee and what we're thinking with hoping that they will get some feedback from the committee, from the council about possible blind spots and possible additions. So I had a slideshow, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to connect it. So we'll keep it under 3 minutes. So the idea behind this this activity or this event is to promote unity, community, and patriotism through thoughtful and inclusive events at the city of Harrisville around this American 250 celebration. And our guiding principles have been to beautifying our city, bringing community together, residents helping residents, and honoring heroes of freedom and educating about the family. So with those guiding principles, we've decided to have a morning of service, and then entertainment, games, and food in the early afternoon and evening, and it will be in conjunction with movie in the park the night before, and it'll close off with fireworks. So I'm not sure how much you need to know, or maybe I should just give you this.
So later, interrupt you for just
Yes, go ahead.
So during the public comment, what you can feel free to share those things. Unfortunately, we're unable to respond back to where you're at. So
it would be a response later, I assume.
yeah, well, we want to get to be a part of the dialogue. We would need to get you on the agenda.
Right, and I assumed that would be on the agenda. I thought somebody else was going to do that. Apparently that didn't happen.
I know nobody talked to me, and that was that's the agenda.
Right. Which is a little bit frustrating, seeing that we have 2 members on the council that are on the committee. So
But anyway, you most certainly can finish any of your words. Then
yes.
Okay.
I just want to say, can I carry something on the public, maybe a little bit more about this, not necessarily the whole presentation, but I will be happy to follow up.
Okay.
And do that for my part of the public.
Yeah.
Yes, I've got the same thing you do.
That's down. That's down as item number 6. So we're
a ways away.
Okay, so Will's down now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
You're not left out.
I just wasn't sure when to do it, so that's what I started.
Any other public comment?
My name's Gary Robinson. I'd like to thank Roger for his comments in the newsletter, okay? I'd like the way you presented your comments in the newsletter.
Thank you.
Also, I'd like to make a comment about the noise level in the park when the Spanish people hold their activities. It gets pretty loud. Is there a way to control their noise level? And I have a question on which you said what our comments could be in relationship to the public hearing.
Yeah, so if you have a comment regarding the public hearing, it'd be best to do it during the public hearing.
It's like, give me an example.
Well, so in other words, if you have a comment about the budget, which is item number 1 or A on the first public hearing, anything that you say during that public hearing will be recorded, and that's where we would like to have it recorded. So versus bringing it up in the public comment right now, you save that comment for the public hearing. So
So you're not recording anything that.
we're recording right now, but we want it to be a part of the public hearing. So whatever you have to say regarding the public hearing, we want it to be part of that public hearing.
Okay, another thing, is there a way to, around the park? Most people do not have their dogs leashed when they're walking them. Nobody ever, most people don't have their dogs on leash.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you. Hey, Gary.
Yeah.
Your email?
but,
Your
oh,
email?
my email is turfish49@gmail.com.
Repeat that, what?
Turfish, TURFISH 49@gmail.
Okay, thank you, sir. Other comment?
This is something else in kind of, I just found it, this comment. Breton Frog, email brettonsfox@gmail.com. Just a comment about something to do with the, what is it, that southeast corner of the park where the ballparks used to be. Has there ever been considered to make a dog there? Just put up a fence with a double gate, have with his issue with the dogs not being on leash. Just a thought to, something to possibly do with that area of the park.
Okay.
Essentially.
Well, we have the Parks Committee guy right here, so he's.
That's my only comment for consideration.
Making a comment.
That's really it.
Thanks.
More public comment? If not, we'll move on to the next item. Item number 4 is consent items. So we have approval of the meeting minutes for May 12, 2026.
No, I had made some comments to Jack, and I think you've included that now into the minutes. Is that correct?
Yeah, he provided some comment, there were some grammar issues, some clarifications, about, increasing the sales tax rate. So I've made those corrections in the minutes. We can go over that if you would like, so that's, he sent those to me yesterday.
You want to go over that, Greg?
No, I mean, they're really just simple verbiage changes, so it doesn't change any content.
All right.
So I'd make a recommendation to approve and then put revisions.
Yeah. Okay. So, motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Our next item on the agenda is the start of the business items. And the first item is a public hearing. It's a public hearing for resolution 26-16, amending the budget for the fiscal year 2025 and 2026. Jill, what's your name on it?
You want me to do the presentation first, or do you want to take comment? That's up to you.
I think it would be good to go ahead and do the presentation, and then we'll have the public comment.
You bet. So let's go through. This is what it looks like. It's short and sweet. You have your first page, and it's just an overview of the whole budget of what the amendments will look like. The top, are the revenues, and we'll get into those in detail, and then the bottom are expenditures. It looks kind of wonky, but I'll explain it. Greg and I had a good conversation, yesterday over this. So on the revenues, we had an increase. Our biggest ones, like we were talking about budgets, are building permits. We had Dixon Creek and then Mullen just start, and we collected a lot more than we could have ever anticipated. That includes our permit fees, our plan check fees, and our impact fees. Which was obviously almost triple what we anticipated. We had no clue Dixon Creek was gonna go that fast, and at the moment, we weren't sure if they were gonna start this budget year. So that was one of our biggest ones. Charges for services, we are now being able to put any of our engineering fees that are reimbursed from our developments back in, so we've been able to account for those. And our special services, this would be our police, our reports that we have to run, police reports, this is also our SRO, so it covers a lot of the services. We had more donations than we anticipated now that we've started this new year. Starting in January, most of that's where those came from. Interest has increased as well. Again, it's due to the type of the amount that we put in. So that's a big contribution. Now for our expenditures. I only included the items that we were changing within the budget. Everything else looks just fine. So in the first department is administration. It was our engineering services. Depending on the amount of development that comes in, depending on how much we end up paying. And how that works is we have Jones and Associates. We have them do our engineering for our developments, and then we in turn build it, developer, and then they pay us back. So our revenue kind of helps with our engineering fees. Election costs and legal services went up halfway through the year. And that's it in our administrative department. Our non-departmental would be Comcast. That has increased, and all of these were anticipated for our next budget, so that's one thing we do look at. Our auditing account services, they did increase. Utilities, our water, our garbage, just like everything else. Property insurance, liability, and we're also transferring to our garbage fund. So those are the changes for the non-departmental. Any questions thus far? Or we've been kind of quick? If you do, stop me. Okay, for our police. Our court security wages, so our bailiffs, the company that we contract with, did increase their cost halfway through the year. And that's why that increased. Overtime, we've been short, and with sixth season and all the other people trying to also take time off to be with their families, that increased. The biggest reason is because we were short staffed. But going forward, Chief and assistant chief have created a plan, so it shouldn't be an issue going forward. Grant expenditures. We were able to use some of the grants that we were awarded throughout the year, so that is why that increased. We didn't have to use it when we get our grant. Our their tax, seatbelt and alcohol enforcement, these are paid by the state. Our seatbelt and alcohol enforcement, they're reimbursements. These are just the expenditure lines. So the more shifts that are given, our employees will take, and the state comes back and reimburses us for those. Next would be the building department. And as you can tell, our building inspections and contract fees increase due to more building permits. We had to do more plan checks and inspections. So that is another revolving fund. Okay. For public works, the roads. We had just a small increase in tools. Motor pool payment, that one was off because we didn't calculate for a couple of the vehicles, so we were just correcting a mistake. And then grant expenditures.
Excuse me. Now, on that, are those the two vehicles we approved earlier or they?
No.
Oh,
These are two older ones that are almost paid off. We just forgot to pull them on this one. The new ones would be for the new budget year. Okay, Parks and Rec. I will admit I'm human and I forgot to pull off a couple of these. Sorry. So really the only ones that we will be changing on this are the bottom two. Our utilities and motor pool. Our utilities are the water that's used at the park, garbage pickup, and the limits. Everything costs more. The more that's used, the more we have to pay. And then the motor pool payments. Other than that, the rest of the Parks and Recs was perfectly fine. This is where it kind of made the front page look a little wonky. So let me explain. Increase in fund balance. We put 3 million, that is up to 3 million. Because we have to make sure we don't go over these expenditures or these contributions. This is our way to be able to cushion if we are able to put as much as we can in there. Because we can't go over. We can only state what is the most that we will be able to put in there. Any questions on that? That doesn't mean we will put that much in there. It just depends with everything at the end. And then transfer to debt services, that would be for the rest of the bond payment for the year.
well, Joe, maybe there's a clarification on that. So when you talk about the up to 3 million, that's because we're also looking at the cap of 35%.
Yes,
And we don't know for sure where we're at this point in that. So if we can't exceed 35%,
correct.
so we could go up to 35% and
Yes,
say,
and that is, and I'll explain one of the thoughts before you guys make any decision.
So I know like the discussion was going to happen on H. So, why don't we let her finish through, then we'll get it in the public hearing, then we can do the discussion and possible action down the line.
Sounds great. So that is the fund, the general fund. So that is our main fund. We have these other funds, like our special district, the 4 mile. The only thing we are changing is using a little bit of the balance because we had to use some for the detention fund. We had to fix the pump. I can't remember what that was. So, and that cost a little more than, or And it was something we couldn't anticipate. The next is our capital project fund. We increased in our interest. And we wanted to appropriate the funds for the bond. It's in our fund balance, but we're putting it into the fund so we can make sure it's allocated. Or as we make payments for the new building. And then the construction has started, so we've added that as well. The next one is our sewer fund. The only thing we're changing is we're adding up to 25,000 that we could possibly spend on the fund now. Our next one is our garbage fund. We are using some of the fund balance. So we're hoping this next month year we can fix some of the fees because the cost has gone up. And that's another piece is we're increasing the charges down at the bottom, the expenditures.
We have an approximation of what the cost of this spring is.
Every year is approximately 4%. Approximately.
Okay, it's a rule of thumb.
And they did state that they would let me know if it's higher than. So. And we'll talk about that for our next budget. The last part is the motor pool. That is the one that we're really trying to fix, and we increased the internal revenue. So each department leases their vehicles from this fund and they pay back that fund monthly. So we've increased that, the interest on it, the sale of assets, and we are using just a little bit because we had a crunch and to fix everything with the vehicle that was totally from an accident. And that is the amendment.
Okay. Let's move on to public hearing. We have a motion to open up the public hearing.
So
Second,
A motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. So we're now opening up the public hearing. It's item number A. It's the amendment of the budget for fiscal year 2025-2026. All those that would like to comment, please come up to the microphone and state your name. Tell us which channel you like.
Hey, Gary Lowe, I'm looking at your expenditures. First of all, I'm gonna go on to your general fund. And I'm in looking at your expenditures, most of them, you guys really blew it. Most of your expenditures. Go on the first page, non-department annual, you went from 117,500 to 232,000. That's a 97% increase. If you were a private business, you would be fired. Most of your department head would be fired. Okay, if you were that much out of the line. Police department went from 49,000 to 127. Somebody's head would be rolling. You're way out of line. Public Works went from 49,000 to 252. Somebody would be fired if you were in private business. You guys failed. Parks and Recreation went from 28,000 budget to 68,000. You guys failed. You guys didn't do a very good job in controlling the council members. Some of the council members were only here for half the year. You guys need to control and watch over the departments. You need to watch them. You can't control the revenues. That's non-controllable. Okay? Utilities, my utilities this last year were basically the same. I track those on a daily basis. I look at my checkbook every month and I track it. So they should not be going up. Park impact fees, you can't control those. Charges for services, engineering fees. I guess you can't control that. Special services for police went from 61,000 on your budget to 189,000. They should be able to explain that on your budget. You should have a budget meeting halfway through the year to the council and to the citizens. You should be having a budget hearing twice a year so the citizens can be prepared. You shouldn't be taking money out of the general fund. That should be building up, so we don't have an increase. City events and park donations. I have a hard time, that, you can't control that.
Gary, we hit the 3 minutes, but I appreciate your comment. Thank you. Any other public comment?
I am Lynette Shuman, City Council, Mayor Shuman. Concerning the proposed tax increase, I'm speaking out against any tax increase. I'm asking City Council members to please first look at any and every means possible to cut costs or budgets before you raising taxes this evening. I have every confidence that you will listen to the residents' request for conservative spending.
Any other comment? Motion to close the public hearing.
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, all in favor? Aye. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing for executive officer increases. We have a motion to open up the public hearing. Actually, before we start, Jill, would you present what you have in mind?
So this is, something that has to be done every year. It is the state law that if any of the department heads are to get an increase of anything, whether it's a penny or higher, it has to go through a public hearing setting. So with the interim budget, it's suggested for a possible merit. We have to budget it that way. If they get it, that's up to the person that's in charge. But that would be for our department heads. That just requires my state.
Okay. You have a motion to open up the public hearing.
I move we open the public hearing for the vote conversation.
I'll say.
Have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Those who would like to comment, please come forward and comment on this public hearing.
Janet Enbridge, and I really appreciate the people that we have that do work for the city. They do a great job, and And I'd like to echo, Mrs. Shuman's remarks about increasing taxes. And I think, that we should be careful about wage increases. That I would be opposed to wage increases if it means that we have to raise our taxes. We have some of the highest taxes in Weaver County compared to other cities, and I'd really like to keep the taxes lower. Thank you.
Terry Robinson, and I think we need to keep our taxes the same as they are. In fact, we need to lower them, okay? There's a couple of things in the private sector on the income tax, our insurance. Employees pay anywhere between 30% and 50%. In Harrisville, employees only pay 10%. So that could be reduced. Policemen don't need to take their cars home. It doesn't have any benefit to the taxpayers of Harrisville. With the new building being built, they can keep the cars over there. And there's a lot of, I don't know if the employees got the taxing, pay raise last year. But people on Social Security only got a 2.8% increase this year. Or 2.2. And employees should not get any more than people on Social Security. And that way, employees, and we don't get people on Social Security don't get merit increases every year. And all the people, employees, and another thing to do is get rid of employees for Harrisville. They get the state. They either get two times their, for every year they work, either police officers get two times their, if they're here for 30 years, they get 2 times their years. Other people get 1.5 times. And also you contribute to their 401k. They could get rid of that. That would save the city too. Or they would not, Well, we're actually paying double dipping for the Harrisville. We're paying, the cities are paying basically a whole bunch more than the private sector today.
Thank you, Gary. Other comments?
Shuman. City council members, I believe there should not be a tax increase to provide a salary adjustment to city administrators. The budget needs to be trimmed instead of asking citizens for more.
Any other comments? If not, we close the public hearing. I don't close the public hearing. So the motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor? Aye. Okay. Move on to our third public hearing. This is a public hearing for resolution 2615, the interim budget adoption. Joe, you're like the famous person today.
Well, we got some new information today. I wanted to make sure, and it is available back at the table. I just want to make sure you guys got a copy. Yeah. So to start off, let me kind of go through the news that I got today. We got our certified tax rate from the county. And for those of you that want to look, it's this page right here. That's back on the table. I wanted to make sure everyone had a copy. If you look, it says 2025 year-end budget revenue was $1,054,490. With a rate of 0.001534. Well, if you look, auditor's certified tax rate just below, it is the exact same. How that works, let me explain. In order to be able to give us the same revenue, because we received the new growth from last year, they put their calculation in and the rate came back the exact same. That does not, the $1,054,490 does not include the new growth. The new growth shows 67,601, which would put our total revenue $1,121,780. However, the not so great news, the values of the homes went up. So it went from last year from 425,000 with our average market value to 433,334 to be exact. So that would be our rate if we did nothing. So if we were to do nothing with no change, that would be our rate. That would be the income that we would get. Any questions on that? That was my good news for the day. Now to kind of go
Maybe-
over.
Help me on slow.
No, you're not.
Just repeat that back again. With the growth rate and what the certified rate was. Now we're still at the certified rate.
Yes, typically it
1.5.
drops. Typically it drops. And Jenny and I were looking at it, like this doesn't look right. So I had a phone call with Weaver County and how she explained it. Because of the amount of growth that we received last year, which put us to that 1,054,000, they have to match that rate again. And she said it's like 1 in a million chance that we got the same rate. Well, we did. She said as long as the growth keeps coming, there is a possible chance that our rate may stay the same. But we can't promise that. We have to do 1 year at a time. And they'll hopefully, so. That's one thing to kind of keep in mind. So if we don't do anything, the growth is more than what we anticipated or what we needed for the sidewalk. So that is my little thing to put out there. Okay. So the budget, it does not reflect the change for the possible rate. So I haven't touched that part. There was a couple of changes and let me explain what they are. Let me get my papers. Sorry. So we'll do the stormwater one. closer to the back. It's Fund 53, not too far up, go back then. All right. Stormwater is 53. Keep going. While she's pulling it up, the change that we had is we added the project for the storm basin that we need over at the new city complex. That what we need to do to construct it. Jones gave us the cost estimate, which was $196,731.75. So that was added to that. Again. And if you look at the bottom, we're still coming out as balanced. We did use a little bit of their fund balance. This is not the general fund. This is the actual stormwater fund. That's part of the reason why we have that fund balance for the stormwater for bigger projects, things like that. So that was added.
Well, probably that's the question on that. But go ahead. Well, that's not, it's fine to read now. With the stormwater on that facility, did the first phase, was it designed to include both phases, or it just stood alone on its own phase?
You want to answer that, Jenny?
So that was, the Public Works building has its own retention on the southwest corner. That's not intended to include all of the cities. The intention was to build a larger stormwater basin at the northwest corner of the property. So this will collect a lot more stormwater. And we are looking into our facilities plan to see if we can appropriate some impact fees for the project as well.
Okay, let's move to Public Works at 1061. This is the general fund, part of that 10 fund. And just to kind of help remind us, anything with that 10 at the beginning is our fund balance or our fund general fund. That's that one. Anything that has a different number has its own fund. So the only thing we increased on that one was the grounds. Sorry, the 1061 431. It was increased from 35,000 to 50. To help cover some of the storage shelving, retaining wall, and then it's part of the strip on 1750. Along with the regular maintenance that was on there as well. That's the only thing that changed on the that one. And then the next one is the 1071, which is the parks. We reduced the 1071 250, which is the equipment and tools, from 47,000 to 34. The 1071 260, which is just the grounds. We increased it just a little to 33,250. And the breakdown, the fertilizer, the church wedding agent kind of helped with not killing the grass. With the drought, with new tables by the pond, and also the portable restrooms. That's what that covers.
We just get new tables by the pond.
We did, these are actually, this was my mistake, these are actually gonna go up by the splash pad.
There we go. Thank you, Brian. And I believe that is all the changes that we made on that. On the budget, however, we have the fee schedule as part of it. That is the last part. And what the fee schedule does is it's easy way for people to find out what our fees are. And any kind of policy refers to a fee schedule, this would be it. So the garbage increased, so it's just a revolving door. It's not our favorite thing, but we can't control what waste management requires. That is going up to 2204. Central Weaver sewers charges have increased. And that's increasing to the 1792. A couple of, another change that we have is the paper that I gave you. It looks like this. We added stormwater for SWIFT fees, and these are equivalent to what the state code requires, which it refers to the state code. Anytime there's work without a stormwater permit, there's a fee. Tracking mud on the road, there's a fee. Cleanup or failure to report spills, there's the fee. Failure to conduct stormwater inspections, there's a fee. Failure to maintain stormwater records, there's a fee. And failure to use general best management practices is a fee. This is all according to the state. So we've just, we're just using what the state has. We just need to put it on our fee schedule to make sure if anything like that happens, the developers pay. No one else should be paying for the developers' issues. There's one thing that I need you guys to keep in mind, and we can talk about it during the discussion, is it allows for each business day, a specific day, the specific violation continues, beginning the day after the day on which the authority issues administrative fine. That is one thing that you guys can determine how much. The only thing is, it has to be reasonable. So anywhere from a low amount to a high amount, that is one thing that you can discuss. And that is the interim budget. However, it does show that the line item for the truth in taxation for the 35,000.
Okay. We have a motion to open the public hearing. Resolution 2615, interim budget adoption.
Make a motion to open the public hearing.
We have a motion, we have a second. I'll second it. All in favor? Aye. Do you have anyone who'd like to comment, please come forward.
Kevin Karras. I want to make clear on the certified tax rate, you need to look at the certified tax rate revenue with growth. That amount, 1,121,780, is what you're going to get without doing any budget increase. Ignore the certified tax rate. Look at that as that's somebody else does that. The fact that it's the same, don't get caught up in that routine. That's been thrown around before and it just confuses people. You're getting an increase that you can budget in without having to do any tax increase. Ignore the tax rate. Be grateful. And yes, every year homes go up and your budget, they intend to make sure you get the same budgeted amount. That's why the rate will change. If the homes go up, it's meant to keep so you can get the same rate. It's a simple thing, but in the past, there's been some arguments about, woe is us, our rate went down, our rate went down. Well, that's because you had a budget set, and that was the same budget, and so the people don't end up getting taxed just because they're hoping them. You get enough money to take care of your budget increase, or that you proposed for the sidewalk, the $35,000. Which I would like to know what more about that. What is the total cost for the sidewalks? We've gone through years with these sidewalks in their sad condition, and I saw something that suggested it'd take 5 years to lower your liability. But what's been the liability of all this time? Some time ago, my sidewalks were done. I don't know if they're saying that they're still the same, or what's even the criteria that was used, but you have enough money, you don't need to do a tax on it.
Thanks.
Barry Robinson. You know, it's interesting when we am older than everybody on the council, maybe, I don't know how I hope to be, except for maybe Grover. And I lived in a foreign country, and everybody, they always complain they don't have enough money, but you always spend what you get. I lived in Mexico for 10 years. We got by with what we had. We ate beans every day and bread and milk. And I was out of a job for like 6 months. We got by with what we had. We have enough money in Harrisville. You can get by with what you have. You just have to pinch pennies. Blind Jay's motto was, when I started with them, we make money by the pennies and we spend money by the pennies. Philosophy now with the kids is we want to have the latest stuff. I'm looking at the stuff you're selling computers. Why do we have excess computers? This last year, you sold excess weapons. Why in the heck do the police department have excess weapons? I can't understand that. And if you put the police department cars over there, they could get by with less cars. Cars can last a long time. When we lived in Mexico, nobody could buy a new car. That was against the law. You had to buy at least a 10-year-old car. Nobody had four-wheel drives. You guys can get by with less. The government, oh, if you don't spend your budget, you can't get more next year. We have to get away from that mentality. We have to spend less each year, so we're prepared for emergencies, for the rainy day fund. We have enough. We don't need to raise our taxes. In fact, they should be reduced.
Thanks. Any other comments? We have no other comments. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll motion to close the public hearing.
Have a motion, we have a second.
I'll second it.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye. That ends our public hearings. Next item on the agenda is item D, discussion possible action to approve change orders for the City Hall Police Department and change order process. Jenny?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council.
I prepared a short memorandum for your reviews this evening. The purpose of this memo and also this line item or this agenda item is based on the City Hall Police Department build. We're looking as a first staff, and we've got our partners here with R&O and Blalock as well to help with this, further this discussion if necessary. The proposed procedures that you see on the memo are to remain in compliance with the city purchasing policies and the bond authorization requirements. And so we've outlined a process here that we'd like you to take under consideration and give some direction on. This is based on the change orders that we have been operating to date. Since January and the changeover with administration and new council members, we've defaulted back to the city's procurement policy. We brought forward to the council any change order that exceeds $10,000 for approval by the council. This is causing a bit of a bottleneck with the schedule on the project, in addition to requiring R&O to keep the city afloat in some circumstances by moving the project forward in good faith that the city's going to approve those change orders. And they're here and prepared to speak to that if there are any additional questions on that. Tonight, we have two proposed change orders for the project. One is winter conditions. They're both outlined on the backside of this memo. There's winter conditions and the elevator 3 column. I do need to make a correction to the record. Last month, I misspoke because I misunderstood the elevator 3 column change as a code change, and it was not. They can speak way better to that than I can, but it is not directly related to a code change. And so that is a necessary change order that has already been put in place in the building to keep the schedule moving. So if you have additional questions on that, I would defer to the team to be able to respond to those. But what we're looking for is not only the approval of the proposed change orders, but also a streamlined change order process and procedure to move the project forward. And what we're proposing is individual change orders that do not exceed $50,000 that staff is authorized to make those as part of the project moves forward. A cumulative total of administratively approved change orders would not exceed the original contingency amount of $500,000. And all of the change orders will comply with the procurement laws and the contract requirements. We are already meeting those requirements. And we're proposing that the department heads attend the OAC meeting every Monday with project team. As those change orders are discussed, it would require all 3 department heads approval to move forward on those. Even if there's just one signature on it, it would require all of us to be in agreement. And then we would provide a staff to keep the council apprised of these change orders. We would provide a written change order report every month at the meetings to outline the approvals that have taken place since the last council meeting. And then any change order that would result in an overage of the original project appropriation, we would definitely bring back to the city council.
I was under the understanding that part of this, when we discussed it, was that it would be you and I that would have the final approval. Is that not true?
So that when we did further research on the bond, that is for us to draw against the bonds. So the order of that operation is city administrator, the finance officer, which would be Jill, and then the mayor if we're not available in that order. The procurement policy is directed towards staff. So that's what the memo was changed to reflect. So what that means is the mayor and the city administrator and the finance officer are allowed to do withdrawals against the bonds.
And
Yeah, there was probably.
Part of I mean, one of the things that I would have liked to have been involved in is, as we get those changes, I would like to be part of that process. like, to be able to have an understanding besides just waiting until it's already spent. So that was, we'd had the discussion regarding having the procurement process so that it was done quicker, so they'll have to have, you know, a scheduled public hearing or a scheduled public meeting, so that it delays it by 3 weeks or however, so we can do it more expeditiously. As long as we stay within that guideline, but me personally, I'd like to be somewhat involved in that discussion and what the changes are, and what's happening in that. So, of course, that's up to you guys.
Are we, is there more presentation still?
That's the presentation from staff, but we're happy to entertain any questions and clarity that you want to have on this item.
So is this also regarding the winter
Conditions,
increase in that?
winter conditions, yes, because
What winter did we have that,
right,
unusual?
it's a very low number that's being proposed. This is what we anticipated.
Isn't,
It seemed like we would have got a bonus because it was warmer than normal.
yeah, I was gonna say, isn't that built into the bid when you know you're gonna work during the winter? You know you're gonna have certain costs and certain things you have to do. And when the winter has been unseasonably warm and unseasonably dry, something like that would be a benefit into within the budget to begin with. Rather than saying, oh, well, we had one bad week for 3 months and we gotta charge you for it.
So there was an allotment in the total budget. Correct me if I'm wrong, Cass, this is Cass from R&O,
May I address that issue?
please. Oh, well, I should ask the
Oh, I'd
council.
love to.
My name's Cass Butler. I'm general counsel for R&O. My email is cass, cass@mandleco.com. It's a very good question. Our contract expressly excluded any weather conditions. And that resulted in a lower price. And in this case, we had a couple of days in February where the temperature was so cold, we couldn't pour concrete without covering it with blankets and putting an additive in the concrete so it would cure properly. Otherwise, we have no snow problems, we have weather conditions. And consequently, the base price of the contract is lower than it would normally be. We generally put in a fair amount of buffer, if you will, for weather conditions. So on a normal contract, it would have been a higher contract. And if it's a light winter, we win. If it's a heavy winter, then the client wins. But that was the case in our contract here. We had no allowance for weather conditions. Luckily, it was a light winter. This was a very small number compared to the size of the contract.
So in that number, I noticed it was for 3 months of blankets. So you mentioned there's 1 week that you used.
It was from February 2nd to February 8th and a few days in March. It was not 3 weeks. And I might add that, listen, we're very sensitive to the issues this council is dealing with in this building that you inherited. And we're working overtime to make sure that we are budget compliant and even save as much money as we can. We reduced our labor cost from $65 to $45 an hour on this particular change order. Our contract provides that we're entitled to reasonable overhead and profit. The industry standard is about 10%, 8 to 10%. We're only charging 5%. We just voluntarily agreed to do that to help with this budget issue. I might add another issue that really doesn't play into this, but I just want to know we're good players. When we bid this project, we were expecting to use a sheetrock company. Named Muddy Boys. Their bid was $691,800. Well, they went dark on us and failed, so we had to go to the next highest sheetrock company, and that was Kimco at $852,167. That's $160,000 increase that we're eating. We're not looking for the city to increase our contract. Why? Because we're going to honor our contract and do the best we can to bring you a building that is well built and that is brought in on budget. So any other questions about the change order?
Question I have, as I was going through it all, if it doesn't say anything in the contract regarding the winter charges, wouldn't that suggest that maybe the winter was already figured in, that it wasn't an additional, there wouldn't be an additional charge?
Good question. I misspoke. The contract expressly excluded weather conditions. We excluded it. We didn't just leave it blank. We excluded it part of our bid.
Is it written into that? 'Cause
Yes,
I didn't read it.
yes, if you look at our contract, we attached a clarification sheet at the very end. And it is Exhibit B under subsection Roman numeral 1, items not included in this contract. And the third item is weather conditions.
Was that the one that Matt Robertson? Had something to do with it?
The contract was signed by Michelle Tate, the mayor.
Yeah, there was I was looking at, I seen the exclusion, but I thought it came from Jones and Associates.
No, that was our contract with the city. And it was a letter to Matt Robertson, Jones and Associate. But it was a clarification and detail that was attached and made an express provision or express document to our total contract by reference in the corporation.
And that's probably where I misunderstood was,
Yeah.
I just seen his name. Okay,
Other things we've done to try to help the city in this project, we've, in addition to lowering our percentage markup on change orders, we have, on a couple occasions, we went ahead to keep the project moving because if we stopped, particularly on a critical path item, on something that is going to hold up subsequent activities, we're going to lose subs. They have to mobilize and go to other projects. They're going to reprice it. So to avoid that increased cost and that delay, we've gone ahead and out of our own pocket advanced the monies to keep these particular items going. I'll give you one example of us doing that. We advanced on the Sally Port. We advanced about 154,000, so that change could proceed and not wait until there was final approval. Had it not been approved, we would have lost that money. R&O would have. A couple other things on that Sally Port, I might add too. We're entitled, especially on a large change order, if it results in an increase in time, we're entitled to get that additional time. We estimated at the time, that's going to be at least a 16-day increase to our overall contract time. Rather than seek that then, we've held off. We're trying to look at other ways to recapture those days by rearranging our schedule, by accelerating certain subs. We're fairly confident we're going to be able to recapture those days. That's probably a 30,000 plus savings to the city that we hope to deliver. So we're trying to be a good partner with you and trying to be transparent and responsible. We appreciate this is an expensive venture, but it's important now that we're already doing this building, that it be completed and it be done right, and it be come in on budget, and it come in on time.
You guys have any questions?
Can you just explain the elevator?
I'm going to turn that over to the architect. Yes. Any other questions on the change order for the winter conditions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Blalock with the Fixcal project. I'm just happy to answer any questions you might have. Maybe a couple points of clarification on what Cass was sharing with you. The RFP that was issued to all of the general contractors explicitly stated that the city would carry a contingency for winter conditions. That's sort of a global statement that really applies to any weather event, whether it's rain or tornado or wind or cold weather. So that dollar value was pre-established as $80,000. It was pretty fortunate because of our winter, and our spring, that we didn't have to go, the full 80,000. I think we're 68,000 or something. So that's really fantastic. And like Cass pointed out, R&O has just been an exceptional partner in the process and willing to sort of, be very fair with their own staff, compared to what they could be asking for. I could not be happier with this construction team. It's just been a great partnership. Your question about elevator columns, I think. Said, okay. Yeah, sorry,
So just clarify, because, viewers clarified on what this change order is going to do and why we need it.
Sure, yeah, I think the issue is, this is the three column versus two. Our drawing showed two columns, as structural support members for the guide rails that support the elevator all the way up from, ground to the second floor. We were following the drawings that, Schindler, gave us for their elevator model and type. And then later on, very late in the process, they said, we actually need three columns, two on one side where the controls are, and one on the other side. So we neglected to put the third column in our drawings, so it wasn't bid that way. And then obviously they were reviewing the shop drawings, we caught it, the fact that we needed three columns, we only had two. So we just let R&O made them aware, and they put together a price and we reviewed it together, asked them to look at it a little bit closer for a few items. And they came back with a revised number and we recommended that for approval.
So just to clarify what you had mentioned earlier, where you talked about the code item is just really the manufacturers. For this elevator, we need these things.
Correct. It's a manufacturer's requirement and it's very difficult to fight it, right? And admittedly, if we had read the fine print on the model number, we could have picked that up a little bit sooner and gotten it into our drawings for the original bid.
Any other questions or discussion?
Well, the clarification Jason was making last month was, this is something that insurance would cover. And that's what we'd asked, I think staff to go back and find out. And you clarified that, just so that it's not an insurance thing.
Correct. It's not an insurance.
It's not an insurance thing, and that's what I just wanted to make sure on record. At least that's what I remember reading was asking about. Was it your fault? Was it their fault? Who should cover that? That was the point that he was trying to understand. I don't know if that came across that way, but that's what I believe. And so, to get that clarified, I don't think this is an insurance situation where it was a default. This is a misunderstanding of what was happening according to the specs.
Correct. It was an omission in our drawings, right? And the city would have paid for it, whether it was in the original bid or added later. Right? It's necessary for the function of the building, function of the other.
Okay.
Okay. We have a discussion possible action, which we've discussed that item. Well, as. Is there another item?
So just to clarify the two change orders, the winter conditions and the elevator 3 column, those are on the backside as proposed. Please omit the Enbridge contract. That's a separate agenda item. But if you could include those totals in your motion and what direction you want to give us on the change order process.
Okay, so we clarified the change order process. So I make sure I understand this. And we're asking for the department heads, they have to be concurrent on everything immediately. So that information is then on the change order. And that's up to the $500,000.
So the cumulative total of all change orders does not exceed that 500,000. but an individual change order, sometimes an individual, so correct me if I'm wrong, project team, but they issue a PCO, which is a proposed change order first. We sign off on that, and then the change order itself is just an administrative update to the price and the contract. And so this would allow any individual PCO to not exceed $50,000
Without harm.
without going to the council.
Instead of the 10,000.
Correct.
So how much of that 50,000 or 500,000, sorry, gone into that contingency?
So I've done a council approval on the back, the total, so you see the original R&O construction bid. The add alternate one, which is Sally Port. This is actual cost from R&O. This is not what was approved at the council meeting, just for the record. The perimeter fence of 82 and the Patriarch panel material costs. Those, I believe we were not taking out of contingency and questioning the Patriarch panel. Kevin, can you better help me clarify that? The generator transfer switch, the underground sewer rework were being taken out of the. Help me if I'm wrong.
Correct, Sally Port and the fence, part of add alternate number one. If I'm remembering correctly, so the Petrarch panels, that was the material cost increase after the contract was awarded. So I think if anything outside of those two items, I think would come from construction contingency.
So thank you for that clarification. So that would be the panel material would come out.
Correct.
So you,
So what did the 82,000 coming up to, because the Sally Port was approved on the same day they approved the rate of bid.
correct, but the total of the perimeter fence exceeded what was required. Let me say that better. The total for the perimeter fence was exceeded the leftover amount of the Sally Port once we made the changes to the animal control. So we brought that back to council as a separate approval in February
And,
or March.
and I think council asked for some options. on
Yeah.
fencing,
So it was a good thing.
cost and aesthetic.
And then the underground sewer, that would be credited back.
Yes, that the underground sewer rework is credited through the agreement with online. But I failed to include, and I mentioned this to Kevin earlier, the utility extension that was approved. So you can replace that. They were both right around 10,000. And then, of course, the Rocky Mountain Power contract was a separate. But I believe to date, these are all of the expenditures related to the project.
I think one of the things that I have to concern, you've explained the change orders and understand that. I just have a problem to say, okay, here's the new procedure we're gonna do. You've got 5 minutes to look at it, think about it, hold it. I really think we should take a look at that separate from the change orders, because I think the change orders are pretty clear and straightforward. But I do think there's some discussion, there's brought up a couple of things regarding the wording on the process. And that's why I'm concerned of it. It wasn't, we didn't have any chance to study this, just here it is, rule. And I just have a concern about that part. I don't want to affect the change order, get that approved, I can get that approved now. But I may want to have some time to have some thought discussion on the other part.
So that would be up to the council. The intention behind staff is there will be additional change orders coming. And we would just want to know how you want us to proceed with that.
Right.
And try not to affect the project.
Right, I think postponing it for a month is going to cause the delays we're trying to avoid. And changing the procedure.
Well, it's,
And I understand that we don't want to just make a rash decision, but
it's my understanding with the prior approvals that were already done with the the bonds and all that, that what is being asked for here isn't outside of the bounds of the law. Like they already have approval to do that. They decided to go back because of myself as a mayor, the new mayor, and two new city councilmen that weren't a part of the original discussion regarding this building. And a fear that they may have, lose their job because of a decision that was made. They went to the procurement process of the city, which they didn't have to do that. So had there been no changes in the council, the mayor, then they would have not changed to go to the procurement process. Did I state that right, Jen?
Fairly accurate, yes.
So reality of it is there really doesn't have to be, I mean, we'd like the blessing, if you will, is how I would put it. To go ahead so that we can approve these changes quicker, but still stay within the budget that's already legally been set. So that's kind of. Okay.
Yeah, I guess the one concern is when we get into the larger amounts, like, yeah, these things are understandable, but when you get some of the larger items.
It still comes out with over 50,000, we can be a part of that.
And you feel comfortable not being involved in that discussion at all?
Originally, when we talked, thought I was gonna be involved, so I kind of. But. I mean, I thought that I would be involved, and yes, I would like to be involved. In that discussion before that's approved, whatever those changes are, just. I mean, some of it can be as easy as being a phone call, by text message, I don't. That's why I have to sit in the meeting, and I'd like to know what the expenditures are before I show up to a meeting a month later and find out that we spend as much as money that I might not agree with.
Yeah.
That's my only issue.
Well, that's the concern I have too, from the discussions we had, the statements we made last month. About some things just being, there it is. Bought.
You know, and with all fairness in that, Bryan Fife corrected me as my, I'm not gonna say stupidity, but I guess it could be stupid. Is that I didn't know the total process of where we sat. So Bryan corrected me what the procedure was. The procedure was being followed, and but at the end of the day, do I totally agree with the procedure? No, but let's go right. Okay.
Okay, let me just throw this out for discussion thought. What would happen if, second bullet point, where you have the full contingency amount to spend before, what happens if that's reduced to $250,000 as far as being spent? You can follow this process, and okay, 50,000, but the cumulative might be more than 250,000. Because then we start, I think, getting points of positive things we can cut versus keep changing. To save money, I just think back to the comments. The overall bond is, the interest rate is what we spend. And if we can do something to reduce, we reduce the overall amount we spend over the year, or years. If you just go the full amount, whatever happens, happens. And not say, well, maybe we need to rein things in because we may not have that additional money. That's just my thought.
I'm not sure, is that a question for staff or is that part of your
Overall
discussion? I understood it that way, I just wanted.
No, it's overall comment.
Well, I think that you'd want to make sure, like if you put a restriction to 250, that there's like a call out at an earlier date than right when we surpass the 250, so that it could be reset. If that makes sense, if it has to go higher than 250.
Oh,
Does that make sense?
okay.
My thought process on it all is that the whole reason we're doing this is to try to keep R&O construction from having to stop and make a decision. So let's say we're going along and we expend out 50,000, we do another 50,000, get to another 50,000, now we're at 200,000, and you set the limit at 250. And something comes up right at the end of, right after our city council meeting, we need to have a budget reestablished. So it would just need to be a recheck, where we sit, so that there's a, if we set it at 250, let's say at 210, that we make sure we cover that in city council, that we may have to add more to that contingency. That's just the thought, but that's the whole reason why we're trying to do it, is to keep it moving.
Right.
Okay.
I believe the 500 was already included in the original thing, the original, whatever, paper we already signed, correct?
So it wasn't part of the contract, but
was
it,
not.
not part of the contract, but it was part of the project costs,
Gotcha.
right?
It's already budgeted. It's in the-
Part of the 12 million.
Correct.
Okay. Anybody want to entertain a motion?
I will attempt to. I'd like to make a motion, possible action to approve change orders for City Hall and Police Department and the change order process. The change order being winter conditions of $15,730.71. And AS-103 elevator 3 column $16,602.44. That's all on that, right? And to change the individual change order not to exceed 50,000 without prior city council approval. 500 was already there, but we can say that. Is that correct?
Okay, we have a motion. Any discussion on that motion?
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second. I believe this is a roll call. Councilman Will Nelson,
Yes.
Councilman Montgomery,
The hesitancy I have is that I'm just concerned that at the end of the day, we're not done. That we're over. And we don't have a way to solve any of the problems. But I agree on the change orders that they proposed. So I guess based on that uneasiness, I don't know.
okay? Councilman Fawcett,
Yes.
and Councilman Christensen,
Yes.
so that passes.
Did we also include, the involvement of department separate?
That wasn't part of the motion, so I'm assuming that the motion stands the way it was approved.
But we need to add in.
We can, if you want to, you would have to amend the motion.
Do you want to amend the motion?
Meaning the 3 department heads, right?
Well, there's the bullet points part.
All included, that's what I understand.
Yes, so we need to amend it.
You gotta-
So Blair, do you want
Yeah, I'll redo, please.
So, Blair, just make sure you are clear that it's a motion to amend.
The motion that we already did, correct? Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to amend the motion that we just, were involved with, by approving winter conditions, $15,730.71. AS 1-03 elevator 3 column, $16,602.44. And the individual change orders not to exceed 50,000 without prior city council approval. the rest of these bullet points. Do I need to read them each?
Please.
The I can't even say that word, excuse me, the cumulative total of administrative approved change orders does not exceed 500,000, which was the original contingency amount. All change orders comply with the applicable procurement laws and contract requirements. All change orders require approval from all 3 department heads. Staff provides a written change order report to the city council at regular public meetings summarizing all approved changes, associated costs, schedule impacts, and remaining contingency balances. And any change order resulting in an increase to the total project appropriation shall require prior city council approval.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. It's a roll call vote. Councilman Montgomery,
No, for the same reasons.
okay, Councilman Wilhelmsen,
Yes.
Councilmember Fawcett. Councilman Christensen.
Yes.
Okay. One word number. Next item on the agenda is discussion and possible action to approve furniture, fixtures, and equipment. That's Jennie Knight and Kevin Blalock.
Thank you, Mayor. We don't actually have a memo for this item. We do have, the budgeted item. The budgeted total for this line item was $500,000 in the project. The initial bid that was received was back in November, I believe. We visited 3 furniture providers, staff, and the low bid came in back in November. Because of the time frame, those prices increased by about 20%. And so we have a new budget of right under 500,000, $495,468.24. That would include the administrative furnishings for the building, which do include the police offices and things like that. It's not specific to just the administrative offices, it's all furnishings. But then there's another budget of police specific furnishings. This is for the evidence room, the lockers, things like that for the police that are specific. And that's $117,647.06. So we went down for a field trip as staff about a month or 6 weeks ago. We met with the provider of the furnishings, and we did some value engineering that drove the cost of the products down. We swapped out so that the furnishings will look much the same, but we used more affordable stands on the bottom of the desks, and any opportunity that we could locate or identify for a cost savings, we swapped that out. Kevin, please help if there's more information, or if you have additional questions for Kevin, feel free to ask. We would like to leave the budget, the proposed budget at $500,000. We're right there on the line, but we would try on our end to reduce those costs some and include a contingency, because we know there will be items that we forget or something will come up during the installation. So we are committed to finding and locating more cost savings as part of that. But we are looking for some approval on that so we can lock in with the provider and guarantee our pricing.
So just to repeat back then, so I understand, so what you're saying is originally it was 500,000 is what it was budgeted for. And then was changes, increased to 600 something, but then you went back to the value engineering, for lack of a better term, to about 490,000. And that's including the police also. Okay.
But we'd like to lower that and include a contingency in there. So we're asking for approval at the project proposed total of 500,000. so that we can sign a contract with the provider and lock in our pricing, essentially. We don't want to wait anymore and find that prices go up, but we will do what we're instructed to do. If you have questions about any of it, please feel free to ask.
Okay, so I'm being the commercial that I am. Are there any of the existing furniture that's decent to use with transfer over to the new building? And where I'm coming from is I moved 5 times and I kept the same desk for all 5 moves. For 30 some odd years, they're the same desk. And so I'm just wondering, are the existing furniture worn out that it can't be used?
So we're not at any point saying that there aren't things in this building that we could take. For example, we intend to take all of our computer systems. This doesn't include any of that. We're on a different schedule for rotation for our computers. And so we would move our computer systems. Another thing I'm looking into, our warranty is expired on our phone system. It still operates, it still works, but we're not under warranty. We do have some issues with it. It does need to be updated, but I haven't proposed any change to the phone system yet. So yes, the short answer is there are probably items here. This includes furnishings for the whole building.
Right.
We would not have enough furnishings, even if we took what we have here
Right.
to furnish the new building.
Right.
So, but we will do it as we're instructed.
There's lots of done, we've been talking about getting advice back from our public. As far as staying within budget, I think that's real critical at this point in time. So if you're saying 500,000, that becomes the end of it, then we do without.
And that's what we're asking is for the 500,000.
And if we do it for less, we do it for less.
Yes.
So when you say a contingency, is this above the 500,000 or below?
We're hoping to find some opportunities. Kevin, would you mind if I have Kevin speak to maybe some other opportunities? He would be more familiar with what we've looked at already and what other opportunities are there.
Yeah, thank you again. Yeah, Jenny's correct. We're operating as though the 500,000 is the max, including contingency. We're super confident in being able to hit that. What we've recommended to Jenny and the whole team, the current number from the furniture provider came back about 497, and we think it's smart to reduce that even further because there might be some unknowns that are going to kind of creep in.
That's a concern I have.
Yeah.
The unknowns.
Right, so we just want to make sure that there aren't any surprises and we have to come back and ask for more than that 500. Also, like Jenny mentioned, we did evaluate a number of the furnishings, like where can we reuse these? And some of them have outlived their useful life, where the technology has changed. I think there's a number of points like that throughout the furniture package. So maybe one thing to clarify, they did provide, those 3 different dealerships or furniture providers did provide a bid or a budget number to the team back in November. And we did award to the low bid based on the product that they offered. All of that, or the majority of it, is on state contract, right? So it's already a fixed rate. To help us get within budget, they actually came down with a more competitive price, lower than the state contract, which is often the case that we find. So that's a huge cost savings. They did that because, I think Jenny mentioned, between November and March or April, the furniture manufacturers implemented a 20% cost increase that was hard to predict or plan for. So that automatically took their original budget above and beyond that 500,000. We worked with them, brought it down, made some changes. Mark and Nick on their side probably saw quite a bit of reduction in the police components. They're willing to make some compromises and sacrifices. on the administrative, all of the office furnishings, workstations, things like that, that actually came down considerably. So those two things sort of worked hand in hand to bring the price down to that 497.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate all you do.
Thank you.
Guess I would make a proposal that we stay within $1,000. As far as the future question.
I think one comment that I'd like to make is when if you go back in time, November, when this contract was all issued, the selling point was, we're doing a building for 9.5 million or 9.5 million, and then we added a Sally Port for $600,000. Now we're adding $500,000 for furniture, $500,000 for contingency, so now we're up to about $11,500,000. We're creeping off close to the $12 million threshold. That's just a lot for a city the size of Harrisville, so keep that in mind.
Isn't this 500 furniture part of that original 9 point?
No, that was the contract to build the building.
And if you think you're more than likely, if you were thinking that then you probably wouldn't have approved Sally. Anyway, it's a motion.
Did you actually make a motion? Laura?
Resident formal.
Was not a formal motion.
Would somebody like to do a formal motion?
I'll make a motion to approve furniture, fixtures and equipment to $500,000.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Also,
So a motion and a second. This is a roll call. Commissioner Christensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Montgomery,
No,
Councilwoman Fawcett,
Yes.
Councilman Wilson.
I have a question. Before I say yes or no. My question is we have a building, what do we furnish it with? I may be understanding, at least I thought that was part of the budget, the building, and what's some contingency above. And yeah, we're coming close to the 12 million. I'm getting really nervous, to be honest with you. Having a budget, to build a building is fine. Furnishing it, I may be understanding that that was part of it, that's money here. Not clear, like this, I'm getting real close to saying the contingency budget runs out, what money have we got left? And where do we cut costs? When there are things that I know are still gonna come down the road, they will, and you know that now. No, $500 million is really put into it. Judge, so how do we go about that? That's my question, is there corners to cut? I don't know any corners to cut at this point in time.
So we have to get to the point where we finish the vote on the motion that's been put in, so.
I mean, that's just my concern.
Okay.
I will approve it. I will say yes.
And so we have 3 yeses and 1 no.
Of that.
Next item on the agenda is a discussion of possible action to approve Enbridge service main extension contract. Jenny?
So this was the amendment that was included in the amended agenda. This was why we amended the agenda. The Enbridge contract was presented to staff at a very late date, but we do have it for you. We do need to have that discussion. The total for that is $16,659.98. This is to provide gas services to the building.
So that's another item that will come out of the contingency.
we will take it out if we're directed to, yes,
Yeah, if you're not, then we're.
we would pay for it out of the budget.
Or do you get it out of the budget?
Will, are you asking for other suggestions
Well,
outside of bond money? We have fund balance, we could put fund balance from this fiscal year to pay that. There are some budgetary options that we have, if you do not want to include that in the,
But this is just supply for the building.
correct,
So
yes.
it goes above and beyond the 9.5 part of what
Right,
the original construction probably should have been. And
Let me ask a question on the drawing. So it's going all the way from Highway 89 to 750 with this new line. Is that correct?
that's what the,
Because they need to connect their lines.
it's not, I don't believe it's from Highway 89. This is
Oh, it's just at the end of the
750.
property.
It's
Okay,
coming from 750 over.
okay. Okay, so it's not quite all the way.
The new buildings, so yeah, it's not coming from, yes.
Okay. And then because it is, if you will, part of the road utilities, could this fit into a part of the road budget? I mean, because when you build a road, you're building all the utilities to go with servicing along the property along that side.
So this portion of the road was already constructed with the Public Works building. So to the 1750 north has been completed to beyond the, well, the asphalt has been completed till then, but if you want this, yeah, staff can look into other funding options for this.
Sorry, I'll answer the question. Is your question, can it be essentially paid with like Class C funds?
That or the impact fees, how much that road and that type of thing.
Yeah, I don't know if we have, so it cannot, Class C funds, it can't.
Okay,
Generally, utilities are restricted essentially to the utility fund, and where we don't provide the gas, we don't have
utilities.
a utility fund for that.
So all we do is stormwater,
Right.
sewer.
It may fall under transportation impact. It may also,
What
yeah,
about-
we
what about the
could come
grant?
back with some options for where to pay for it if you'd like. Our concern is getting the contract approved so that we can, but we're happy to do, again, what the council directs us to do.
And does that also include then the parcel that is Northview Fire, that corner there? That they would then be able to service off this line too?
That question I can't answer tonight, and I'm unsure of where they're ending that line.
I'm just going off your drawing, but that is like,
Because they still have to draw some stuff too.
well,
It may be how far.
is there an easement or something, we say, okay, we've paid for this, now you pay your portion, your front, right, reimburse us when they do. I don't know, it's gonna look like a holding easement on a utility line.
But I mean, essentially what you're asking for is like a pioneering agreement for the city, right? Yeah, that's a fair question.
Could that not be part of a conversation when that happens too?
Absolutely.
About-
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, I think if the city is building it in such a manner that it could be added onto, I mean, it's consistent to say, we'll do a contingent upon a pioneer agreement where we get some reimbursement persons who attach to it. And you could make that part of your motion. That's easy to handle on the back end. Yeah, probably something that should be done.
Right.
Assuming again that it is built that way to be,
Yeah,
the persons are adding them to it.
yeah, right now we have that lot set aside, we own it right now, but the intent was this gonna be Northview Other Station?
This contract is much smaller than Rocky Mountains. I know Rocky Mountains contract included language to that effect, that the city would be reimbursed if people connect to it. this I don't believe has anything, so.
So I think the pioneering agreement has to be part of the one with this.
Any other discussion? Anybody like to entertain a motion?
I'll make the motion. I think they need to look at other options to source money, but money rather than taking down contingency fund. And I know that was all, where else would money come from? This, I'm answering at this point, money is just. And that one can be transportation money, then explore, yeah, I don't know, is there other areas in the budgets I can do?
If it's the impact fees, that has to be part of the study, so that's something we can look at. Because those are restricted funds. But we can look at that, or we can have it pull out of our, general fund. We can cover the reserve part of this.
Is it gonna have an impact if this isn't approved today?
Yes.
How much was it again?
So could I make a stab at a motion then? So I recommend we approve the extension of the Enbridge service main, subject to the following conditions. One, that we include a pioneering agreement for if any future lot connects to the line installed. Two, that we first look to fund this project either through money in the current budget, this year's current budget, pay for that as first option, or two, looking at,
Go ahead.
okay,
Listening.
and two, looking at then if that's not a possibility, was there any impact fee that this could be applied to? So there's not really, okay, so
The impact fee would require an amendment to the study.
and then we
It would
do
take
on, okay.
a year.
So I say that's option one, and if that's not possible, the present budget, then option two is the contingency.
Okay, so we have a motion. We have a second,
I'll second.
we have a motion. This is a roll call, so we'll start with Councilman Wilhelmsen. Yes. Councilwoman Fawcett,
Yes.
Councilman Christensen,
Yes.
and Councilman Montgomery.
Yes.
We move on to item number H, discussion and possible action to adopt resolution 26-16, amending the budget for fiscal year 25-26.
I was doing G, it's G.
Did I miss G?
Uh-huh.
I put next file.
They've been waiting here for so long.
Discussion and possible action to accept authorization, assignment, and assumption of the master development agreement for Old Colony. Jenny?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This item should be fairly straightforward. This is just in a reassignment document. The project Oak Hollow has been sold to a new owner, and the master development agreement requires a reassignment take place. If the project is sold, the new property owner is under the same obligations as the original owner under that master development agreement, and this is just a formality for the council to accept that reassignment.
Any discussion or a motion?
I just had one question to the developer. My understanding is the original development agreement language included all property from Larson Lane down to 700, including the Love's Home. And then I've heard that no, the Love's Home is going to be separated out. The legal description that seals the entire property. Could you clarify is what's being transferred, the entire property from 700 to Larson Lane? Or is, the heart home being cut out of this?
The Love's property, Lane Lawns,
I mean, Love's, yeah, sorry.
what was the Love property? The back part of that has been subdivided and will be part of the Oak Hollow subdivision, and the Love home will remain and will be sold.
Okay, so yeah, my question was, it's still the entire from 700 to Larson Lane?
From 700 to Larson Lane, no, because the Love property will remain separate, which is on 700. And so it's just the back part of that that will be part of the subdivision. Maybe I'm not hearing.
Well, my understanding, when I read the first legal description, when the first one was done, it went all the way to 700, including the home. So my question is that still the same legal description?
I'll have to review that. I believe that it's been changed. Do you know, Jenny, offhand?
The legal description was larger than no, it's the same. I double checked, the legal description acreage is the same for the assignment as it was the MDA.
And so you're saying in the MDA, it included all the way from 700 North to Larson Lane?
That was the way it was presented.
Is it gonna change how you vote?
No, it's just a question of who is this agreement MDA to that? There's a different owner than one part of it.
Right. It's not gonna change.
Yeah, the Love home, that part of it, the front part on 700 was never intended to be a part of the Oak Hollow subdivision. There is an easement there for the sewer to go through there. They're actually digging that this week, but that home was never intended, from 700 North all the way through that piece was never intended to be a part of the subdivision.
Okay.
So what you're asking is we need to double check the legal description.
Well, I'll let them work it out, but that's just how it was presented originally. It included everything, because I know there's a lot of discussion took place there.
Yeah, there were, over
Love's home was
3.5 years or
something.
something, Okay, yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, somebody like to entertain a
I
motion?
make a motion to authorize assignment and the assumption of the master development or master development agreement for Ocala.
We have a motion, we have a second.
I'll second
A motion and a second. This one can be all in favor.
Hi.
Aye.
Okay. Now we're on to item H. Discussion and possible action to adopt resolution 26-16 amended the budget for the fiscal year 2025-2026.
Okay.
Now you're up, Jill.
Were there any questions really quick before I keep going? Okay. With the contributions of up to 3 million to go back into the fund balance, I ask you guys to think of because we can only do up to 35%. So whatever your motion, if you could add anything that exceeds the 35%, to have the rest of the amount put, and you could do debt services, and we can put that towards the bonds. You could put it in the capital projects, but you'd have to be specific on what you want that amount to go towards.
Sidewalk.
So that's
And,
up to you guys.
and this is this year's existing budget.
This is the amendment to this year's budget.
Well, I had three different thoughts on this. One was, it'd be great to put it, a lot of it into the rainy day, for lack of better, to the fund balance, not to exceed 35%. I mean, it'd be great to put a good portion of that in there for some future, just as a good holding. But it'd also be good to say, okay, let's do 65,000 for the solar into this year. But it also, as I looked at it, thinking, well, can't come up with one way, maybe this is the gas. The 16,000 also coming out of that. So right there, you're what, minusing.
That's why we put up to the 3 million.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that we're going to put that amount.
Because we don't know.
It's up to that amount, because that would be pretty much the most that we would even see. But we still have all of June, and then we do have some invoices that tend to come in July and August. So that kind of gives us a little buffer, but anything up to the 3 million that we could put back in the general or in the fund balance. But if we could put as the motion, anything that exceeds that 35%, because that would be the max of what the state allows us to either put the rest wherever you guys see fit. But I need it stated in the motion.
Let me ask this, what? I always think about, trying to pay off the loan sooner than later. If you allocated $1 million to the city facility. So, okay, $1 million here, that would, again, hopefully decrease interest rates that pay a term of the bond. If you also take $1 million, already pay it off. Because in the long term, we're gonna need more of the sales tax that's been committed to other things in the future, and then we can get it paid off sooner. I mean, so I'm just throwing out different ideas of where that could possibly go. Any other discussion?
So you need to know specifically where we want to put it.
Yeah.
So
Because
we-
how we have to do it at the end is, once we hit that 35%, I need to make sure I put it in whatever fund or wherever it needs to go before we do an audit. That's fine. You don't have to necessarily say the exact amount. You can, for example, you could say in a motion where you can approve or whatever the amendment to the budget, and with the contribution to the fund balance not to exceed the 35%, with any remaining going to debt services or capital project for this project. Is that kind of clear a little bit more?
Applies to the point, but if we're getting specific, the only thing that I've heard right now is sidewalks. Which I think is a big one. Because we have the liability sitting there. But what other areas do we have to look at?
Towards the furniture, we just discussed, Jenny, other things that we were concerned about.
So the city hall is listed as one of our capital projects.
Right.
So if we have additional fund balance beyond the 35% and you identify that as capital projects, then we can come back to you with approval for that to be assigned to the city hall, FF&E.
We don't have to say, we don't have to say quantity or amount.
You don't have to say the amount now.
Anything over the 35%.
We just need clarity on that over the 35%.
Gotcha.
Is there a fund that's more flexible?
The two that you really would want to put in is the capital projects, which is our Fund 40. And that can house for your sidewalk projects, buildings, and those types of projects that are already started, or your debt services.
I know the budget meetings I went to down in St. George, they discussed some budget areas where you could. But if it was in this particular budget area, then there could be potential to be able to take excess out of that and move it to another area, but there's some you can't move here.
So your utility ones, like your garbage, things like that, those should not be making any money because we are not providing services. That's why our stormwater and our sewer do have their funds.
But what I'm saying is out of this excess money, if there's not a budget category to put it in. If you put it in, then you find out 6 months from now, you need to transfer it to blah, blah, account. there's no accounts like that. Flexible.
We can do that really with the Fund 40, the capital projects, and the only one that's not gonna be transferred back is your debt service. Right, that one is gone, because once it's there, it's
I'm just bringing that up, it's
good point.
as a potential. See where you're making money.
For me, it makes sense to put it in the project fund because there's so much you don't need to use it for city hall, and then once things are done and we know what we don't need anything else, we can, we put maybe to the debt services and pay some down or whatever. That is a lot more flexibility in my opinion. And I hate it when people call it a rainy day fund because it's really not, it's a capital projects fund to be used for these things.
Right? Mr. Fine.
Sorry.
That's what you can see your computer. you know.
I said, right, not right.
Yeah. When you were talking about the sidewalks, you have a kind of a ballpark idea of what it would cost overall. You know what that was?
500,000, 400.
So there's a chunk that can be put in the. All right, that's all.
And does that deny capital projects or is that another fund? Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I was saying.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah. Because we have one to be determined how.
I'll just say this, there's not a city in the state of Utah that has a capital facilities fund that is equivalent to the needs.
No, no,
So-
they don't.
And then to the mayor's point, you have a lot of flexibility in the capital facilities to adjust that. You would just have to go through the official budget amendment. But
And
I'm gonna make a motion to adopt resolution 2616, amending the budget for fiscal year 2025-2026, with anything over the 35% being put in county.
also, you
A motion in a second. This is a roll call vote. Councilman Christensen,
Yes.
Councilman Montgomery,
Yes.
Councilman Wilhelmsen,
yes,
Councilwoman Fawcett.
Yes.
Okay. Item number I, discussion and possible action to adopt resolution 2617, adopting the property tax impact schedule. Jill,
Hey, I got short arms, so when I kind of, do that. So this is our process, our normal process for the Truth In Taxation, it's the impact fee schedule, which we went over last month. And it's in your packet. It is. All right, I'll get it. I thought I had, I know.
Page 52.
So it goes through and it says Harrisville City will consider an increase to its property tax rate from 0.001534 to the 0.001567 estimated to generate an additional 35,000. Following information is intended to provide decision makers and the public with an explanation of how the city operations would be affected if the proposed tax rate and increase is adopted. Harrisville's current property tax rate is 0.001534. The current revenue that we received was the 1,054,490. The change amount would put it to 1,089,490. With the difference of the 35,000. The estimated increase to Harrisville City's property tax revenue is the 3.32%. Estimated increase to a primary residence that would value at the 430,000 would be an additional $7.87 or 81 cents. Estimated increase to a business value of $430,000 will be $14.19. The affected department, that would be our Public Works Roads Department. Proposed budget is $1,496,399. Budget without the tax change would be $1,461,399. The budget change amount would be the $35,000. Impact of the tax increase, the Public Works Roads Department will be for the sidewalk repairs and to lower the liability risk for accidents.
Okay. Discussion? Board action?
I guess the question that I have is, with what we just did, and with what, we received as a certified tax rate,
This would just be the process because this is what was posted going through the Truth in Taxation.
but do we have to continue on with that process if we decide?
Technically, it is part of our policy that, with that being said, depending on August, that's when you guys will make that decision. Because of the policy, we do go through it.
And so that, okay,
So the final decision is not till August,
Correct,
regardless of what we do now,
correct,
the information that we've received.
correct.
Don't get mad at Jill. It's the
I'm not-
state. It's clarification, like you're.
You're just, you said, table this till August, or what is that?
no, you gotta,
We have to.
You have to do something today.
Yeah, this should just follow the process, right? Because the state requires us to do all this work before we have certified tax rate. So we still have to follow through the process. This doesn't mean you have to adjust the rate, doesn't mean you are picking this. This is just the process that our esteemed legislators have laid out for us to do. There's really not a way around it either.
Right, so it's a step in the process with no decision being made.
Correct. You guys will ultimately vote on the budget and any rate increase, decrease, anything in August.
Right, and regardless, we're doing truth in taxation because of our policies.
Yes.
I'll make an action to adopt resolution 2617, adopting the property tax index schedule.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll say again.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Councilman Montgomery,
yes,
Councilman Christensen. Yep. Councilwoman Fawcett.
Yes.
Councilman Will.
Yes.
Item number J, discussion possible action to adopt resolution 26-18. Adopting property tax levy subject to truth in taxation.
This is just stating that we are going through Truth in Taxation. The process.
It's consistent with the rate that we just.
the whole interim is again, state law issue.
Yes.
Is it state law or is it started because the council approved the mandatory truth in taxation that has to be done?
So Truth in Taxation, the laws for that got updated this year.
Okay.
And the policy was put in place before the laws changed. So because of our policy, we are going through this, and because of the law, this is the new process.
And then maybe, I mean, I read through the book from the League of Cities and Towns, and from what I understood is the only reason you need to do truth in taxation is if you don't have a balanced budget. And so if you can't balance the budget, you can't cut costs, can't do this, you're gonna have a tax increase. And that's where the truth in taxation is. But because the city and the city council in the past passed this ordinance that says we have to do truth in taxation, that's why we're doing truth in taxation, which makes us go through all this gibberish.
That's mostly accurate. The one thing is, you talk about like balancing the budget. If you don't go through Truth in Taxation, your rate essentially decreases. So even to certify your rate and keep your budget, your rate the same, you have to go through the Truth in Taxation process. So if you wanted to do no tax increase, but wanted to keep your rate the same, you have to go through this whole process as well. No, it does.
So what you're saying, what you're doing is going back to the certified tax rate. Is what you're trying to maintain, which is a tax increase. We can have that debate, but at the end of the day, if it costs me more money because I increase that up, it's a tax increase.
Right, and yeah, we can have that debate, that's.
Right, and really, I think the purpose in choosing to do truth in taxation was part of the transparency, and
That can be.
intent to be more transparent and include people in the process. It wasn't simply to be able to raise taxes yearly, it was to be more transparent.
We have a motion. What do we have to do?
Jay,
I'll make the motion in adopting resolution 2618, adopting the property tax levy subject to truth in taxation.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Is this a roll call?
Yes.
Councilman Montgomery,
Yes.
Councilman Will Elson,
Yes.
Councilman Christensen,
Yes.
Councilman Fawcett.
yes,
Discussion and possible action resolution, interim budget adoption. Gentlemen, okay. Okay,
Okay. Going over those were the only changes that we made, the changes on the fee schedule, parks. Do you want me to go through those ones again, or you guys feel comfortable with that? This is just the interim budget.
do you guys have any questions for you? Okay, we have a motion,
make a motion to adopt resolution 2015, the interim budget adoption.
we have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
This is the roll call vote. So, let's see who to start. Councilman Christensen,
Yes.
Councilman Fawcett,
Yes.
Councilman Montgomery,
Yes.
Councilman Williamson. Yes. Yes. Discussion and possible action about resolution 2614, the creation of the Parks and Recreation Committee. Jenny?
Thank you, Mayor. Tabled at your last meeting was the Parks and Recreation Committee resolution. I understand there's been some discussion between the Parks Chair, Councilmember Williamson, and then also Councilmember Montgomery, and these are the proposed changes to that resolution from last month. They're underlined, the changes that are being proposed tonight. So I would defer to them on questions regarding those changes or any discussion points that you have on that.
I think the real, at least the keys we talked about was look at all properties that can be considered parts of the. Number two, minimum of 5, maximum of 9 members was one we'll discuss. It needs to be big enough to serve what we need to say at the same time, controllable. The suggestion that Greg met was is that this committee can be an ongoing committee, so putting 2 years rotation on it. So you have a committee around for 2 years. Intention behind that is that you have consistency. So somebody on the committee stays long, half of them will drop off, half of them will go on, similar to what's going on with these kids. That's the idea. The other thing is that it was the designated that the members of the committee would elect a head, chair. She couldn't call it bigger. Feels like that. Now a chair, and then we as city council members or staff members would be its, and be there ex office, ex officio,
It's official.
but issues ex officio. So that we are not voting members of what needs to be recommended to the city council. We're here as advisors. The only biggest concern I have is to make sure we can help move this along, so it doesn't become something that's followed in. It's an effective committee, but recommendations can be made back to the city council through the Parks and Recs. Or back to the Parks and Recs, but we become advisors. How that all works out. But that would be the recommendation of this here, and how it differs from what we were doing.
Well, the other two things was to have the Parks and Rec Commission work in terms of possible capital improvement projects that can be suggested that be included in budgets. Have that input coming, and also looking at the open space general plan part of it, and make recommendations so the planning commission can review whether amendments should be made to the existing plan based on their discussions and what takes place public input.
So there's those two in depth, I guess, very little impact. That's what we came up with. Yeah.
It's increasing duties, responsibilities.
Looks good for Brian.
Right, you have a good on this one.
We're happy to assist however we can. It's going in a good direction.
That's what I, along with that, we talked about the last committee was the survey. So now we have this, around the parks. And we did, encourage everybody who wants to take some flyers. And that was where it was going to start. The next time we meet, if this is approved, and that would be part of the agenda down to the vote. Chairman, the person, then we become basically vice person.
Okay. Your motion?
I'm going in. Motion to adopt resolution 2614, creation of Parks and Recreation Committee.
Second. Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Oh. You can roll it along to it. Okay, Councilman Williamson.
Yes.
Councilwoman Fawcett.
Yes.
Councilman Christensen.
Yes.
Councilman Montgomery.
Yes.
See. Yeah, discussion of possible action to surplus computers.
Thank you, Mayor. This is pretty straightforward. We have changed over some computer equipment. We have some iPads and some cell phones that are no longer in use. We're asking for permission for the city to sell those or dispose of them, whichever is most appropriate for the device.
Okay. Discussion of possible action.
I'll make a motion.
There you go.
Surplus the computers.
Okay, we got a motion. Do we have a second?
Yes, that's a good.
Okay. So vote, so. What is the EDB?
I don't think that it's not a roll call,
It's not,
you know.
it's not a resolution.
Well, okay, the other one said resolution, so if this is resolution, that's a roll call. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Item number N, flock camera discussion, Chief Wilson.
Yeah, so this is a discussion for Pleasant View has entered into an agreement with Block to into a trial program to have some cameras in their area. The problem where we come into it is the roads, Pleasant View starts on the road right by where Betos is at. we own the property where the side of the road. So Pleasant View is asking for permission and for us, they sign on the UDOT for permission for them to put the camera on Harrisville property as it enters Pleasant View right there, so.
Does that benefit us?
Absolutely. Harrisville doesn't have any flock cameras right now, and, you can pass those. This is a map of flock cameras in the area. We are the black hole. Everybody has them around us. We did apply for a grant that would give us 2 flock cameras, possibly 3. We asked for 3, but the grant was for 2. We'll see what happens. But it's a state-funded grant and it's for 2 years. Those flock cameras, if we get them, would be down in the south end by Larson Lane and Wall Avenue. But they would be run by the state and used, fentanyl money is what's paying for those. But yeah, Harrisville is a black hole for these, and they're great for solving burglaries, you know, murders, all kinds of things with people entering in and out of this area.
So explain the terminology flock. I got the general idea.
I think the Flock is just a brand, that's the company, but it's a license plate reader camera is what it is, LPR.
That's just the question.
Yeah. So there's 2 companies that around here that do that, Flock and Motorola. But this area up here is mainly Flock, so if you're gonna be integrated in the system and be part of the network, it's Flock in this area. Down in Salt Lake area is more Motorola.
So this item doesn't add for any particular action.
Just permission, it would give permission for Jenny to sign the UDOT agreement that allows Pleasant View to put that on Harrisville property.
So just direction for different.
What do those cameras cost?
There, you don't buy the camera, it's a lease. Yeah. And they're about $4,000 a year. Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't make sense not to use it to me. I mean,
the only problem is so we have to have a MOU with Pleasant View or whoever operates their flock system to get access to that, to where even the state cameras that get put in, if they do come to fruition, we don't have a flock account, so we can't access that stuff. We'd have to have an MOU and go to the state to ask for that information.
okay. Then we'll get that in place.
Say that again.
We'll get a MOU in place.
Yes.
To be able to do that, yeah.
We're working on it with Flock and the salesman right now, trying to find a way to figure that out.
Okay. You want to give some direction to Jenny?
I would agree.
I'll be honest, I need,
3.
Yeah, we need to.
I know.
Yes. Yep. Do it, please.
4 is better.
One
Discussion possible action to approve sidewalk replacement. Brian?
Thank you. The intent of this was to, per our procurement policy, ask for permission to expend funds on a pretty high priority area that we have. However, I don't have enough information to move forward with that, so we just asked to table this till next city council meeting.
We have a motion to table.
I make a motion to table this item.
certainly.
All in favor? Aye. Road closure discussion, Jennie Knight.
Thank you, Mayor. This can be as brief as you'd like. We're just looking for some direction. We've had a request from some members of the public to close their roads for neighborhood block parties. Historically, we haven't allowed block parties, but we've been given some advice from the League of Cities and Towns, the state legislators, to try to encourage people to have neighborhood parties in the America 250 celebrations. So we wanted to bring it forward to you for your decision on whether you'd like staff to work with resident applications. We do not have a permit. We would probably want to put together some kind of informational permit from who's closing it, from the locations, emergency contacts and access, that sort of thing. But we don't want to start that process if the council doesn't have any interest in our exercising that. We're just looking for some direction on whether the council wants us to allow people to do that closure. And if it's a 1-year thing because of the America 250, or if you want us to create some type of a policy or permit for that.
Well, I think having the block parties even beyond this year is a good idea. And I know you have to do some analysis of not closing off major routes, making sure you have emergency abilities to get around, but I think, you know, a block or something saying, okay, let's close off this one block running to the street for X amount of hours. I think it sounds like a good activity. To help promote what we're trying to do in the city of unity and community.
I think the same thing, honestly. I think it's a good thing, but I think we ought to have some type of policies and give us some general guidelines. Somebody's gonna come say, I want to do this. I think it protects the city too. We have something and we can define parameters. That's a protection, I think, for us too, and I think we have to look at it from this thing. It also gives law enforcement a chance if they need to come in and do some crowd control that can be done. Goes back to what Gary said here, police in general, but if we're in a small area and you get a complaint, you can have a presence there that can bring it down. I know where we have a block party, but we have a T where it's a dead end, so it's not as much of a major problem.
Yeah, the only issue you'll have is if somebody on the mayor's road wants to have a party and want to shut down 750.
They can just come to my house.
You know what I mean? That's any major, because
So
750 is crazy. I don't know if you could ever shut that down.
Or even limit to
yeah,
how many closures on one day. Yeah, that definitely needs to be a policy.
right. I would
No, I agree. Some type of policy, but
We would probably identify our arterial roads and exclude any main road that's used for traffic. This would be just local
yeah. No,
roads, but yes, agreed. We would have to define that in the
I think we need to have an application process or a permit and, you know, limited number of permits per day or per whatever. And locations.
I think.
So we do have an application for August. So we will work as quickly and timely as possible to maybe bring something forward in July, or we'll look for. I see a consensus that everyone agrees with.
I think it's good.
Okay,
Nobody wants to put in the effort. I think it's good.
thank you.
You notice we didn't have any, action items regarding second public hearing.
Sorry, the second.
So we had the second public hearing.
Yes,
But there wasn't any discussion, or action items on that particular item.
so any of those increases would be included in the interim budget adoption. So there isn't a specific action, it doesn't call out, the budget doesn't call out executive officers separate from regular employees, but the state legislators do.
So. Staff. Chief Wilson, let's start with you.
Yeah, I'll be quick. Summertime, kids are out, things are happening, it's getting busy, a few busy weekends. Sergeant Milloway just graduated his first of a trilogy for the FBI leadership. Scheduled to go July to the second one. So he's making good progress and bringing some of those leadership skills back to us when we meet on our weekly admin meetings. So it's been a good class for him. Officer Van Beekam's off-field training. He's integrating well with our team off to a running start. We completed our tactical and medical training with the Tri-City Task Force last month, so.
That's it. Brian?
Yeah, I apologize to those that cannot see without straining. I failed to mention this in May, but the city cleanup went well, April through 22nd, April 22nd through the 25th. Quickly for some numbers, Wednesday there were 7 loads, Thursday was 11, Friday there were 18 loads, and Saturday there were 24, although 15 of those were some from the same address. So total, we had 60 loads, 6 dumpsters, there were 0 non-resident contacts. And the total was, for that event was 1,368, so significantly lower than what we used to do when we took household garbage, right? There may be a suggestion from staff coming up that we run it Friday and Saturday only, but we can talk about that later. Baseball and softball, the last games are tomorrow. Harrisville traditionally has not had any major hiccups with our programs, and that stands true this year as well. So we're just wrapping up baseball and softball season. The gardening classes, the last class was May 15th. The next class is June 26th, which will be composting. Those continue to be pretty well attended, I think, Councilman Montgomery. Movie in the Park, June 12th, that will be the Lego movie. And then I just wanted to bring up some splash pad issues. Tuesday, May 26th, which was the first day it was open, we had issues with an automated communication alarm inadvertently disabling the feature pump. That had nothing to do with the safety or health of users. We were able to bypass that alarm, and we're waiting on a bid to get that fixed. And then Thursday, June 4th, we had a pressurized pipe fitting failed and flooded the mechanical room. This is a specialized part that staff was able to find one the next day and get it up and running for the following Saturday. So it doesn't come without its hiccups. However, it is being very well used this year. So at least so far, one day staff counted 50+ kids and 30+ adults, if not in, then around just that general splash pad area. So it's being used heavily.
Jenny, come back, you still see a lot of kindergarten, preschoolers coming.
I haven't seen any buses yet. So not as of yet.
Thanks, Mayor. Most of my items were on the agenda, but I just would like to take a moment to recognize the outstanding job that our staff has done, particularly with all that's been going on the last few months. Each department has fantastic support and great employees, and I appreciate being able to recognize them to the council for all that they do to support the city.
Brody, do you have anything? Okay, how about Councilman? You have Councilman?
Well, we need to go over the 250 because there's some stuff that needs to be done in order to get advertising things out, right?
Yeah. So
It's like been a long night.
yeah, I'm sorry. I sent, I don't know if you can pick it up, but I sent a copy to Jenny just now while I was sitting here. I don't know if you can get it. Of the slide presentation that we had kind of put together to explain to the council what we are thinking. Maybe I should skip to the parts where we need input. So on the, I mean, I don't know if you know who's on the council, what our goals are. The brief, so far we have, or a brief overview of what we're planning, is we're planning a morning of service, and we've been working with Bryan Fife about, we want to have a fun run of flags in connection with a food drive, so they come to donate a can of food to run through the flags. We set up flags all around the pathway, like 250 flags, and have a survey that goes out to the community, or to the community. Yeah, here it is. So go to slide We talked about the vision earlier, the guiding principles is just. And then this is the things that we have on here, so this is what we want to talk about: morning service, entertainment, games, food, logistics, and budget. And the last one, the Heroes Boulevard, that's really, that's one of the things we want to talk about, because the thing we talked about in the North Ogden does, and it would require. It would, if we did it, it would require more than just this event, it would be like a continuing thing. So we'll talk about that at the end. So this is a brief, overview of what we wanted to do. So on the morning of, and I think it's, August 1st, but is when we're planning on doing it. We would have a flag ceremony, in the morning. We would put up a bunch of flags. We'd have, our survey for volunteers to help put up the flags, because there's 200 people who want to put up a lot. And we'd also need to make sure when they're putting them down. We want to make sure to take them down before the fireworks get set up. And that was another question we had from the community, is like, when do the fireworks people come in? You know, when do we need to take the flags down? That's what we're talking about later. Then the letters to the family, and then we also wanted to talk, the beautification projects we were doing. I got in conjunction with Bryan Fife here, which answered our questions about not needing additional city resources, like that the Parks and Rec will have some of the resources for the projects we wanted to do in putting up the park, putting up wood chips, and doing litter sweeps, and possibly like just trying to make the park look pretty. Next slide. Okay, this is the entertainment we have for the evening. We have some bands set up. As you can see, there's 3 of them there. Part of our budget, we wanted to include a stipend for the groups to help with their expenses for music and things like that.
My suggestion I made, I was, maybe $50 to stipend.
But
or up to $100 for the budget.
And it would all fit within our budget of the 6,000 we have from the city, and with the 2,000 we have from the crate. So we're not asking for any with it. Next. So for our games and education, that's where we're the Harrisville Youth City Council has stepped forward to organize that. They said that they would be able to fund their booths. I think they were gonna have like 2 booths with some games that they were gonna run just in the evening in conjunction, maybe at the same time as the entertainment and and so they would be able to set up these booths for learning about our founding and the Constitution, and some games actually for additional funds. And they're gonna handle that from their budget, so we wouldn't need to use our budget for that, which is nice.
So the time frames you see down the bottom is 2 5 May.
Yes.
So all the activities are going on at the same time. We have different type of entertainment as background music. That was the intention. I think just give you a realistic picture. Here's the thought that I have. This one needs to be sent out to everybody, and then you can get the back that one too.
Yes, that would be awesome. Like, and Jenny, since Jenny has it, you can send it out to everybody
Yeah,
else.
so I think if we just go ahead and hit the highlights and just.
Okay, next. We were gonna have food trucks. We have picked 4 of them, but details, we just wanted to make sure we don't have too many, so that there's not competition among food trucks, because otherwise they won't come if they can't make profit. We do want to have some food available for purchase. Next is, this is kind of what we have for our preliminary budget. We did have a question about the fireworks. We had heard that this year's fireworks have already been paid for out of the budget, but they do that fireworks next year. Would we need to then use out of our budget for this event to pay for fireworks next year? I guess that's the question we have for the council. What that usually goes.
We have a separate line item for fireworks in and of itself. So you have a $6,000 budget for the main event, what it's called,
Okay.
out of our line item, out of our budget, and then we have a separate budget for fireworks. So
So we don't need to include fireworks in our budget.
we do not,
Okay,
based on what the city council wants to do.
okay. Perfect. That was our question on that one. The other question we had for the city was like, we wanted to print flyers and possibly banners. And then we had heard that you have contracts, like the city has contracts with the printing office. We wanted to know what sort of feedback you had on the ability to print, some signs or banners for publicizing this event to the community to make sure it's well attended. And maybe we get further feedback later from this campaign. Entertainment. For the morning of service, we talked about, then this hasn't been fully approved by the committee yet, but we had talked about providing T-shirts. Because that when everybody has a matching T-shirt, that kind of brings unity together. It's like we're all doing the same thing. Kind of nice. That's just an estimate of what we thought we could do, like 400 T-shirts. Like we can get it for the volunteers, and then if we have extras, then we could give them away later or something like that. That's our idea on the T-shirts. But again, that hasn't been fully approved by the committee. It hasn't been fully brought forth for the event committee. But we're gonna stay within our $8,000 budget, especially now we know that we don't have to take fireworks out of that pen. Right? No, we won't in. What's that? It's not pretty moment. Is there one? There's more about, so we talked about. This is a draft of the questions for our survey that we wanted to put out. The purpose of the survey is to try and get to put together organized volunteers for the setup. To ask if they want to help with singing of the national anthem during our flag ceremony. Staff to help with the letter, the food drives, the beautification projects, that sort of thing. But also to nominate a loved one for the streamers that we're gonna add to the flag. So we're gonna have names of veterans and current service members that we wanted to put on the flags as we run around as an honor to all of those service members who have and who are currently serving. And we really have no idea how many of those there are. We don't know how to find that. Maybe issues we're trying to.
I talked to your wife last night when she was first
Yeah.
rehearsal, so. When I talked to Sharon Edwards, she's already done the background for everything in her postal book. Up to the present one.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned we could get that.
So the idea is to try and find a way to get veterans from the present day. So we'll contact veterans and see if we can at least get a logistical idea. We're not looking for information other than what city that's in.
We're not sure, I'm not exactly sure the logistics of putting the survey out to the community. I think we would want to have like a QR code on some flyers, I think was the ideas that we had put forth. And so that would have to be organized. And I don't know if the city or the staff has any resources to help do that. That was kind of feedback one from people. But we don't have to do that now, I guess. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Unless we wanted to talk about the Heroes Boulevard, which would require. I mean, the only thing we could do for the Heroes Boulevard part of this event would be a fundraiser to get it started as a kickoff event. Because, and then it'd be an ongoing project after that. And we'd have to decide where to put them, you know, what poles we would put the banners on. So if you're not familiar with the whole Heroes Boulevard, it's the banners for veterans that North Ogden does on Washington. And so the idea is we could do something similar here and use this as a kickoff event to get publicity with America 250 to get people excited about it. But that's one we probably would need more city support because again, it's an ongoing thing and it would require maintenance to maintain these banners and things like that.
I think that's a day for another discussion.
Yes, for sure. But the only thing we brought it up is that something that we'd want to entertain? We wouldn't want to put more effort into it if there's no interest at all. Is the only thing. It would definitely require more work from our part to find out details and costs and things like that. We wanted to get some sort of idea if there was interest in pursuing. And that's it. That's all we really have to report. The other thing I wanted to bring up is staff and council, if you have any, because some of us on the committee don't have a lot of experience in planning events like this, but if you have experience, like, oh yeah, you're gonna want to think about these extra things that we haven't thought of. That's kind of the purpose of presenting it to you tonight. So I don't know how we want to move forward about feedback. We can get,
My suggestion is probably at this point that we all have this information. I think we can sort the information and go back right through Jason to him.
yeah, I think that would be a good idea. I don't know if you need anything else from me. I did things like I said, Councilman Wilhelmsen and Jennie Knight has this information.
Thank you.
Are you planning a map for where everybody's gonna be at in that section of the parking lot? Do you have stuff out in the parking lot? Do you?
Right now, we are not planning anything in the parking lot. We are planning it using the Bowery and the grass to the north of the Bowery. We were gonna try and put the food trucks on the grass to the north of the Bowery, just below the berm of the path.
I've had him there before.
That was the
The only
idea.
reason I'm asking, and if there's stuff going on in that parking lot, to save a spot for the police, for our command trailer and stuff to be set up and.
Yeah, that makes sense. We weren't planning anything in the parking lot at this point.
But keeping it clean so you can.
Yeah. We haven't decided exactly where the booths are gonna go for the youth city, the youth are gonna set up, but I'm pretty sure they're gonna be on the grass probably to the east of the Bowery, is probably where they're gonna. Just north of the basketball court, probably, I imagine. Anyway, yeah, that's all I got.
If I could just add real quick, I haven't thought of everything, but I did email a list to Councilmember Hadley on event ideas that should be thought about.
Right.
For him, so he has that, and then also sooner than later, I have to start scheduling the staff that will be there that day and the night before and everything, so we can touch base with Councilmember Hadley as well. We need to know that, so we can have people here.
Okay, so yeah, you let him know when we need this, so we can make sure to get that information to you. In time and manner, so we can get it.
So I also have a question to the committee that historically, when we do Heritage Days, we would reserve the cabin because we'd use the cabin's resources, chairs for the event or tables. We have a request from a resident to reserve the cabin for that day, so we would need direction on whether the city's gonna be using those resources. If the committee doesn't think that they're gonna use those resources, we'll allow this resident to reserve the cabin.
As long as we have chairs for band and orchestra. I mean, we'll have them bring on stands, but where would we get chairs? Are we using these chairs here?
Yeah, so that's why we use
So we
the
have
cabin.
these or the cabin chairs are the only ones the city has available, so we just need to let the resident know because they are trying to reserve the cabin for that date. We've been holding off so that.
Thank you.
And you are planning on reusing some of the picnic tables that are under the Bowery to move it out, so.
Yeah.
You will lose those seating areas.
But what I think we need chairs for is for the orchestra. And
Orchestra band, the thought behind this, Brian, was 1/3 of the Bowery area would be for your entertainment.
for the
Yeah,
orchestra.
2/3.
And, but so we need chairs for them to sit in, because they couldn't use the tables, that's the.
My suggestion, is the resources, chairs, tables, probably we would use.
I would say let's hold off on.
Yeah, let's,
I think if we're planning for it to be our city resources.
Can I have one more? I need one more. Agreed? Thank you.
Okay, the only other thing I had, and I'm gonna jump ahead because I know what time it is right now. Is that one of the things that obviously is coming up in our CTR certified tax rate. Jill has a neighbor down the street that happens to put those two together. Would that be an educational tool we could use on a council and have him come and make a presentation? How does we county came up with CTR? Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your time and your patience.
thank you for your consideration.
That was all I wanted to bring up, was that's just not throwing out, but if somebody want to think about fine, but I've always tried to figure out how they logistically put a certified tax rate together. I think this came well. It's last time being on the mosquito committee,
abatement, they announced their certified tax rate. That's the only reason I knew it was coming, because it was, they got it, put it on the table.
Any other comments from the council?
I just had, much, but I'll just do one. We received a letter from a Jay Stanton. And this is regarding, we call it the
Subdivision.
yeah, Heavenly Fields Acres. Now, I know that property is zoned R3. I also know that since that took place in 2010, is there a time clause? Did that Heavenly Acres get approved before 2010? And it's not,
The deadline's July. They have to have it started.
well, but I was saying it couldn't have been approved after 2010. So you had a project that got approved 16 years ago,
So there was a
not
renewal,
recorded.
there was a renewal of the project in January.
So we don't have a time limit on a project getting approved and then it
I
expires
can
that.
tell you what took place, and that's was they approved the extension in January
Hmm.
to the developer, but it's been going on for 7 to 8 years. This development has been, and then they have till July 1st or July 30th.
Project management time, so the second week of July,
Yeah, so they have
that
got that,
will expire.
that expired.
I was just curious about, you know, if we had 16 years and now it just got reapproved. So is it in limbo for 16 years?
Well, I get it, it's being worked out for 16 years, but it's, I replied to this guy,
Okay.
so I sent him an email regarding where it sits, and his concern is it's high density. And he doesn't want high density in his backyard.
Right.
Okay, we got to solve. There's another one coming tomorrow,
Hmm.
where,
Yeah.
which, that one's another interesting one that whether you agree with it or not, it sits right in the middle of a low density area. And I guess we did some kind of overlay, something or other. That allows now to stick high density right in the middle of the agricultural area, which is an interesting move with the, but similarly, this is still a higher density house where he lives. Where he lives, and then they have even higher density behind him, and that's what he's not liking.
Yeah, I was just wondering, just on that time frame of what something was R3, it got approved in 2010. And we allow 16 years to work on that original approval.
Maybe there's,
They're normally gonna move forward. I think it's 1 or 2 years. If you don't have your project finalized and submitted and recorded, then it expires. And I didn't know, do we have any rules like that, or we just,
Asking staff.
yeah, because I'm not aware of.
So the R3 zoning was grandfathered in 2010 or previous to 2010. The R3 zoning was already in place.
Right.
So the application came in under the old ordinance that governed R3 and was designed to meet that standard.
But then it got approved that way, but normally their approval is only valid for a year or 2 years, and then it expires if they have done no action.
And that's where we're at with the subdivision approval. The plat was given approval in July of 2024. And then they were given, the code says they can have a 6-month extension after 12 months, and then a second 6-month extension, and they're coming to the close of that second 6-month extension.
Yeah, I guess I was just trying to figure out, they got approved before 2010. All that work should have taken place within a year or 2 after the original approval.
They weren't approved in 2010.
Oh, so they weren't approved.
No, they were approved in 2024 under the grandfathered ordinance for that zoning.
But I don't know, we have standards. I don't know, we have standards.
Our ordinance 255 governs the R3 zone for multifamily.
Or it's 250.
We had to go back in the archives of what that zoning would be for that zone, because the zone was already it was already zoned R3.
Right. It was, and then
So they-
standards, yeah.
Well, the standards would be what was in place at the adoption of the ordinance 255.
I guess that's where I just have that hard question. According to the memo we got just recently, you talked about the uses, and I understand the uses, but there are no development standards that are grandfathered other than just the uses. So trying to figure out how they get approved if there are no development standards, because they were all eliminated in 2010.
And sorry, I'm trying to piece together what the heck we're talking about, so I'm coming in cold and it's okay. But I mean, in 2010, whenever the zone, the uses there, you're saying there was no standards, no development standards at all?
Well, no, there were in 2010. We don't know what those standards are. We know, okay, here's uses. But even that, we're guessing on what's allowed then versus, because we don't, unless we have.
Ordinance 255 had standards for multifamily, and that's what the application was for. So those standards were applied to the project. How many units?
So it didn't go as an R3 project, but as something else.
Well, it's already grandfathered R3.
Well, you can't grandfather vacant land that doesn't have approval.
It was zoned.
Right. But then all the standards will be filled. And so everything that's built is continuing to stay there.
That wasn't our understanding. If we've done something, we'll have to have Brady check into it.
Okay, now just the question I had, given what the letter that was sent out, saying, okay, here's where we're at with the R3, R1, 5, 6. And I understood about uses, but it isn't saying at all about the development standards, because we don't know what they are, they're gone. We don't have any development standards for what the R3 zone about.
Only under that.
Only
original
under around
ordinance.
it's a multi-family project or something. Which, again, if it's not built, doesn't have any non-conforming right. So that's just what I'm trying to figure out.
But we approved it in 2024.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to, how does it do that?
Some kind of guidelines that were done, so at this point, if the developer has those guidelines, he needs to be able to, they'll be allowed to continue whenever it was approved back in 2024.
Yeah, it's just.
But right now, he's running in the deadline. So,
So I guess hopefully if that doesn't happen, I don't have to really consider saying, if it's expired, it's expired. And, you know, we got this whole winter, we gotta figure out what to do, because we have, while the uses are saying, okay, ours are uses, we have no design standards.
I think at the end of the day, I mean, right now, the developer has an approved process as well as an extension. So it goes through July. And then if we decide to hold cord right now, then he sues us,
Right, I mean, we gotta let it run out, I'll be sure this.
the other side. So at this point, we just have to see if it goes through or not goes through, and how it is. If the resident decides he wants to sue, then I guess he gets to sue. At this point, that's where we're at. It's been approved. We gotta wait till July. Any other comment? Okay,
Any report back on the public works sign,
I'm sorry.
the public works sign on the building we don't own?
Oh, no, I do not have a report back on that. I have not heard from that developer, so I'll follow up on that.
I know on the ordinance, it actually says
There.
we were responsible to remove it. in
On the sign ordinance,
And we had 30 days, but it was,
and a little longer than that.
yeah.
okay. I didn't really have a lot to say, other than I appreciate all the staff and everything that you guys have done. We moving along, so, thank you. I have a motion to adjourn,
Make motion to adjourn.
a motion and a second. All in favor?